Hey guys, so today I will be sharing with you all of the books that I read in July. I have an okay wrap up this month. I read 7 books, 5 of them I physically owned, one of them was a short ebook, and then the other one was an audiobook. So I generally had pretty high ratings for everything this month, and I'm quite excited to talk to you about all of it, so let's get right into it. The first book that I read in July was Bad Blood by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the 4th and final book in the Natural series. If you watched my favorites of 2017 so far, you would know that this book was on that list, and I loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, but I would give it 10 if I could. The series wrapped up so well. I felt like everything was concluded very nice. All of the loose ends were tied up. I'm going to miss this series so much. It is one of my favorite series. It's one of my favorite plots and some of my favorite characters ever. So I'm glad I finally read it, but I'm sad that I finally finished it. As soon as I finished it, I wanted to start over with the Naturals and just do it all over again, but I didn't. But I'm sure I will reread this series in the near future. And then I picked up the ebook. I don't remember who the author was, but it was free on Kindle, and that's called Before You Sleep. It was kind of like a bind-up of novellas. I believe there were 3 or 4 short horror stories. I just wanted something kind of fun and spooky to get me out of the book hangover that Bad Blood had put me in. This one was okay. It wasn't really scary. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It was free, so I can't really complain. And I just read it on a lunch break at work, so it was okay. I finished another series this month, and that is the Burn duology by Ellen Hopkins. So I read Smoke, and this, as always, is told in verse. And again, I thought it was really well done. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I laughed, I cried. I thought it was really well done. This follows Patton, who we follow in the first story, and kind of the after effects of everything that happened in Burned, but it's more about her mentally growing and a mental journey. But we also get a second perspective from her sister, which I thought was really interesting and a nice touch. It added a lot more background to the story. So yeah, it was really well done and one of my favorite Ellen Hopkins books. I read Smoke by Ellen Hopkins, so again, another great ending to a series, this one being a duology. The first one is Burned, which is one of my favorite books, and this one was still just as great. So again, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a really strong conclusion, but what I enjoyed the most out of this one was the dual perspective. So we follow Patton, who is our main character in Burned, but we also get the perspective of her sister Jackie. So it was nice to get both perspectives to see how both were moving on mentally and their journeys following everything that happened in Burned. But it also provided a lot more backstory to everything that happened in Burned, and you kind of understand what was going on when Patton was in Nevada. So I thought it was really well done and I quite enjoyed it, so I'm glad I read it. I finally picked up Project 17 by Laurie Ferrier-Stolars. I'm surprised by how much I enjoyed this novel. It's not scary, it's more thrilling, but we follow 6 teens who break into an abandoned mental hospital on the eve of its destruction to film a movie. One of the guys is directing it because he thinks that's going to be his big break, and all these other teens, for various reasons, decide to join in with him. So they hear things, they find things, and they see things, but it's not anything really scary. It's all kind of set up, and, well, not like set up, but you know what's coming, and if you've watched a lot of horror movies like I do, you know when things are gonna happen. But I thought it tied up really well at the end. I read it in 2 sittings, and I probably could have done it in 1 if I didn't break to go to the gym, but I really enjoyed it. So if you're looking for a quick read, I'd probably recommend this one. I did give it 3.75 out of 5 stars. It wasn't great, but it was better than good. So at this point in the month, I hit a little bit of a reading slump. I had 2 or 3 books going on at once just because I couldn't settle down into one, but I ended up picking up the audiobook to Beauty Queens by Libba Bray. I did start this as an ebook and I just wasn't getting into it, and about 25% of the way through I was gonna give it up, but I decided to see if my library had the audiobook, and it did. So this novel was kind of interesting. It's a young adult satire contemporary. So we follow, I think, 11 or 12 young girls who are in a plane crash on their way to a beauty pageant, and they have to survive on this island until they can get rescued. So with so many different personalities and so many different friendships and so many different themes that came out of this novel that I ended up really enjoying it. The audiobook was fantastic. It's read by Libba Bray herself, so she adds so many voices to all of the different characters, and they were so distinct that just by listening I knew exactly who was talking or who was thinking and who was leading that chapter, that it totally changed the experience for me. I did write a whole review. I think it was quite a long review because I had so much to say about it, so I'll link that down below. But yeah, I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars, and I was pleasantly surprised because I was gonna DNF it at the beginning of it. So I'm quite happy I finished it and followed through. Then, as another audiobook, I picked up The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. This one I went back and forth between listening and then listening while reading along. It was different. I've heard with this one you kind of love it or you hate it, and that's the experience I have with Neil Gaiman overall. I've read one that I didn't like, and I read one that I did enjoy. This one was okay. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It's really odd. So in this novel, we follow a man who is kind of looking back on his childhood through memories, but he's kind of going back to his hometown, and these memories keep coming to him. So we just kind of go through the important parts of his childhood, but there are some really weird things that happened that kind of took it away from me, and it wasn't what I was expecting. So I went into it not knowing what it was about, and I still really couldn't tell you what it's about. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It might be one of the last Neil Gaiman books that I read. I might go back into another young adult one to see if maybe it's just his writing style that went over my head, but it kind of read very adult and very classic literature to me, and with the slump that I was in, I think that's just not something that I needed. So yeah, I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't like this one, but I got it off my TBR, so I can't complain. And then the last book that I read this month took me the longest to read, and that is The Bourbon Kings by J.R. Ward. This is my first time reading this author, and I don't read a lot of adult romance, so it was an interesting experience. A coworker lent this to me, and I'm quite glad she did. I did enjoy it, but it is fairly long. I think it's over 400 pages, but I enjoyed it. In this novel, we follow the Bradford family, who are very famous and very rich because they make bourbon, hence the Bourbon Kings. So this novel is written in third person, but we do follow the lives of many different characters, all having different relationships to this family. So the 2 main ones that we follow are Lizzie and Lane. Lane is one of the sons in this family, and then Lizzie is kind of like a groundskeeper, but she has a history with Lane due to a romantic relationship that happened 2 years ago. So she's still really bitter about it. They don't really talk. But yeah, there's this big derby going on, so everybody is home, and it makes it really awkward, but there's a lot of secrets going on, and there's a lot of drama going on, both with all members of the family, so it was a lot to keep up with, and a lot to separate, and a lot to think about, but I really enjoyed it. It was very engaging, and yeah, I will continue on with the series. There's 3 books, and I think the last one comes out tomorrow. So yeah, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I don't know if I'll pick up the second one right away, but it is on my to-read list. And yeah, that was my wrap up for July. Hopefully I have a bigger one in August, because there are still so many books that were on my summer TBR that I haven't gotten to yet, but I didn't anticipate the slum that I hit in July. So I think I'm finally getting back out of it now. I'm getting excited about all of the books that I want to read. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what your favorite book was that you read in July. You can leave that for me down in the comments. And yeah, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.